Now, coming on to the website, on the home page, you can search for properties by the address. We do also have an owner search where you're able to enter an owner's name and get a list of properties associated with that owner. We do also include a parcel ID search. So in the event that you don't have an address, you can also search for a property by its block and lot. We're going to search by address, and I'm going to look up a condo building using the address 143 East 34th Street in Manhattan. Now this page is identifying that this property address also exists in another borough, that being Brooklyn. So that's an alternate address for this Lenox Road address in Brooklyn, but we want the one in Manhattan. So whenever you do see this, you just click on the address for the one you're interested in, and that will take you to the report for that property. Now here's the property report, and there's a few things at the top of the report that I want to draw your attention to before we get into the actual data. First, you'll see these links here at the top. The first one is Find Comparables. So you're able to run a comparable sales search right from the property report using the property address as your primary property. So clicking on this button will automatically run a search for sales that have occurred within a half-mile radius of this address in the last 6 months. Also, this build mailing list. This will be available in reports for condo buildings as well as co-op buildings. So if you did want to send a mailer to all of the owners in a particular building, you're able to do that just by clicking on this button here. Now these next two options, Add to Property List and Add to Watch List, I think are going to be very useful to you to use in conjunction. They work very well together. First off, the Add to Property List. For lack of a better term, you want to think of this as a list of lists, or it is a list of lists, but you probably want to think of it more as a file or a folder. It's a way for you to keep track of properties that you've looked up recently. So you can create any of these at the bottom here, create new list. Because when you first come onto PropertyShark, the only option you'll have is favorites. If you come down to create new list, you can add to the list, and as you go along looking at property reports, you can add them to whatever files or folders you create. So for example, I have one here called New File. If I want to add this building to the New File list, I just click on the box in front of the list name. You see here it says the lists were updated, and if I click on it, it'll give me a list of properties that are currently there. And I can go into those reports as well. So you can create these files or folders as you go along and add properties as you find them looking up property addresses or block and lots. Now, along with that, we have this option, Add to Watch List. And now, any property that you add to your watch list, you're essentially asking PropertyShark to send you email updates. We'll let you know if there's a new deed on the property, if there's a new mortgage, if there's a new building permit, or if it gets listed for sale and we have the listing on our site. Any of those things will happen. We'll send you an email letting you know. So anything that you have on your watch list, you probably want to have in one of these files or folders as well. And now we'll go through the report. We have the address for the property. And below that, we have what's called the jump to section. This, when you're using PropertyShark, is your best friend. This is your index for the entire property report. So this is going to allow you to navigate through PropertyShark without scrolling through the entire report, which is particularly useful because if you were to print this report, it'd be about 40 pages. So this will make it easier for you to identify the information you want and get to it quickly. So for example, if you wanted information on property tax, you can just click on the property tax section and it takes you right there. Now we're in the property tax section of the report and you can see that information there. We're just going to jump back to the overview. Below the address in the notes section, you'll see a property photo. These are actually pictures taken by PropertyShark photographers, so you'll see the month and year they were taken below the photo, and there are thumbnails for other images as well. If you have our photo subscription, you're able to click on this photo to get the larger version of it. This is also going to be a high-resolution photo. Now, you see it still has the PropertyShark watermark on it. If you click on the Unlock this photograph link above, that will reload the image without the PropertyShark watermark, and you can now save it to your computer. Just right-click on the image and save it to your computer, and you can use it for whatever you'd like to. Also, below our own photos, we have links to Google Street View and Microsoft Bing's Bird's Eye View. Below that, again, this is only going to be the case for condo buildings and co-op buildings, but there will be the units and related parcels section this is going to be the units in the building. And what we'll do is create a report for every unit in the building. So condos and co-op units have their own individual reports in addition to the report for the entire building, which we're looking at now. In this section, you'll see we list out the unit. We give you the owners of the properties and also the sales information. So you'll see the sale date, the price, the square footage, and the price per square foot for the unit sales. Now here we'll go ahead and take a look at the overview of the building. The first section, address. If we do have the building's name, that will be included. You see here this building is called the Benson. We'll give you the primary address. And just one note about the primary address, that's information we're getting from the city. And the primary address is not always necessarily the mailing address for the property, or in some instances what the address is on the front of the building. So we give you any alternate addresses for the property as well. The alternate addresses are particularly useful for properties that are on a corner because they will have an address on each corner. And this particular property, as you can see, is 143 and 145 on East 34th Street. So that means they can put either number on the front of the building. So if 145 were on the front of the building, but the primary address is 143, our report will say 143. Now, if you do type in the address 145 East 34th Street, it would still bring you to this property report. So you don't have to worry about that. The site is very intuitive with identifying addresses because we have the alternates. Now, below the address is the neighborhood section where we'll give you the neighborhood name. We'll let you know if it's in a historic district. You can see information for the local police, the fire station, the schools. Is all that is included here in the neighborhood section. The next section, valuation. This is kind of introductory information for the taxes. I would say defer to the tax section for that information. And the next column is going to give you information specific to the property, being the lot and the building. So in the first section, you see the lot square footage, the lot dimensions. It'll tell you if it's on a corner. Below that is the floor area ratio, or the FAR. We'll give you the max FAR and the FAR is built for the property. And so you'll see here the maximum usable floor area is 38,000. The building is currently at 33,000. So there's about 4,000 plus air rights that are technically available here. Whether or not they're actually available is an altogether different situation. Below that, you'll see condo conversion. That means that this property was converted to a condo previously, so it wasn't built as a condominium. So in these situations, we'll include the property report for the previous building, whether it's a vacant lot or an apartment building. We'll have the report for the previous address. This is useful if you want to take a look at the title history to see prior deeds and mortgages and get further information about ownership on the building. You can use the previous report to take a look at that, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Now the next section is building information. First thing you'll see is the building class. So we'll tell you that this is a special condominium billing lot, which is an R0. And if you click on the green question mark here, what will take you to is a list of all the building classes, building class codes, and their descriptions. So you now have a cheat sheet of all the building class codes and their designations. So if you're not familiar with all of them, you can always come in and take a look and see what each code relates to. Now below that, we'll tell you if the property is landmarked. We'll give you the building square footage, the building dimensions, stories, and other information relative to the building. Below that, the usage will tell you how many units. There's 28 residential units, 1 commercial unit, as we saw. And you see the square footage, how much is residential, how much is retail, storage, all that's included here. Below that, the zoning. We'll give you the zoning code. Again, this is a C19, and just like the building classes, if you click on the question mark, you can see our zoning guidebook. And wherever we do have building amenities information, that's going to be included as well. So we'll tell you here if there's, for example, a doorman, how many elevators there are, things like that. There's apparently a part-time doorman and 1 elevator. Now below that is comparable sales in the building. This will be like what we saw at the top. It's just going to list out all the sales, but it doesn't include the owner's information. The next section is web mentions. This will tell you if the property has ever been written up in local periodicals, including The Real Deal, Cranes, the New York Times, even blogs. We'll jump down to the ownership section. So we have a couple of things here. We have ownership from permits. for example, which is going to pull out emergency contact information from building permits that have been filed for the property. So anything that's been done within the building requires a permit. Building permits do also require an emergency contact for the owner. When it comes to the building, especially a condo or co-op building, some of these things will be things that were done in the unit. So sometimes you will see information for a unit in this particular case, not for the entire building. So you want to be wary of if there's a unit number listed here. But this information is useful if you're looking for an owner because that owner's emergency contact information is included here, the name, the address, and the telephone number. So if you can confirm that you're looking at the owner's name, that's a big plus. Now in the section above, we're pulling ownership information from various sources like title documents, the assessment roll, and also if there's been any HPD registrations, for example, those would be included here. But we also include below the building permits the title history. So you can see all the deeds and mortgages associated with the property. This title documents section is pulling information from ACRIS, the Department of Finance, which we get on a daily basis here in New York City, and we also have links back to those documents. So this deed, we can click on this box here, and that'll take us to ACRIS and let us see a scanned copy of the document, in which case you can see, for example, who signed this deed, and if you can find a mortgage, that's even better. This tool is particularly useful for properties that are owned by LLCs, because a property that's owned by an LLC is kind of a dead end. So you can go and take a look at these documents and see if you can find a signature. Mortgages are better because they print out the name, but here, as you can see, we actually have a scanned copy of the document. So we have the company's 143 East 34th Street Corp. That's the owner of the property. And what we can do, we'll go back up to the ownership section here. Here, this is displaying the information for one of the units. But we have these icons that are up here, and one of them in particular is Research This Person. When you click on Research This Person and go to Business Search, in the case of an LLC, you can click on the Department of State, Division of Corporations, and it'll autofill a name for you, so you can go back and put in the name if you need to. There we go. So we do have the 636 Broadway, Suite 820 is the address for the LLC, and the CEO of the property is Steve Haskell. Those are the things you want to do. Go to the title documents, identify deeds and mortgages, see if you can find a name there. Also look at the building permits to identify the emergency contact for those. And do the Research This Person. The link right up here, it's a person with a spyglass. That's the icon that you want for the Research This Person. Again, here, if you click on the first icon above the name, that's our deep owner search. It'll show you other properties associated with that owner. And the last one is Add to Address Book, so if you do want to keep that record, you can do that as well. I'll take you through some of the other things you can expect to find here as well. We'll give you phone numbers for the building, so in the case of a condo or co-op unit, that's the tenants. But if you're looking at, for example, a townhouse, that's going to be the phone number for the owner. That's included there. We also give you registered voters, but again, that's really there because of the phone number possibility you see here. Now we're just going to jump around a little bit. I'll take you through some of the other sections of the report. Development and use. This section is going to show you a building class map. Below that, you'll actually be able to see the city zoning map. So we have the zoning map here for those of you who may need that, and this map will actually sometimes be enhanced with a color-coded grid. You'll maybe see blue, purple, red, or pink shadings over the map. Below that is the floor area ratio and air rights section, and this we're going to show you how to calculate air rights if there are any available. We'll also list in this section if there's been any complaints filed on the property, and then below that you're able to see actual violations. So you're seeing violations from the HPD, Housing Preservation and Development, which this property has none, but then also the Environmental Control Board. So there's nothing listed here as well. Now, in the below neighborhoods section, what you're able to see here is school information. So we're going to identify zoning for the school zones, and then also nearby schools. So you can see what schools the property is zoned for but then also what schools are nearby as well. And below that is a subway map. We'll show you how close the property is to the train. This particular property is within 1,000 square feet of, looks like the 456 line. Now also, what you'll see in this report, if a property has retail storefront, you'll be able to see this section in the report. It's called businesses, and it'll identify what the business is on the first floor. So you see here the Jade Day Spa. That's the one we saw on the Google picture. So our picture is a little bit older than Google's because we had the prior spa. So here you see Jade Spa and a link to their website. And also you can click on this map as well and get the full map view of the retail storefronts in the city. Now the last thing I'll show you in this section is the hazards and environmental. We saw this earlier in the overview, that there are no toxic issues that have been reported on the property. But if you did see that there was an issue on the map, you can scroll down to the legend to get some more information on that and even more details by clicking on our pollutants group FAQ here. Now below this we also include the FEMA flood zone map as well as the updated one post-Sandy to see if there's been any changes. And you can see there's been, over in this corner, you can see there's been a little growth in the areas. First is just this, but now there's a little bit more there. So there will be differences, so we give you both to take a look at. And finally, we'll also include hurricane evacuation zones, so you can see if the property falls within one. And as you can see, it does not. Even though it's pretty close to a major hurricane zone, it don't have to worry about that necessarily. And so that's the majority of the property report. There are some things that I did not go over, but again, the jump to section is going to be very useful for you because it tells you what you can find in the property report and allows you to get to that information quickly without having to scroll through the entire report looking for what you need. Now, you'll also see that we have a print report option which allows you to print out the property report, but as I said, it's very large, so we allow you to choose the sections you want to print. You don't have to print the entire report. So you can come through, choose which of the sections you want included, and then just print out those sections. For example, if you only wanted to print out the overview information, you could just select none and just go through, click on overview, and then all those sections are included. Alright, so what we'll also take a look at is this option right here, custom print header, because if you are going to be giving the report to someone, you're able to include your own header in the report. So you can put your company logo, your contact information, as well as a photo. I would definitely advise you to choose a better photo than the one I'm currently using, so definitely make sure you use a good photo here. What we'll do is in the personal information section, we will include your name, phone number, and email address from your account. So if you want to change those things, you're able to do that as well as add additional information. If you want to add your photo, just click on Personalize with a Photo and upload a photo from your computer. To add your company logo, click on Select Template at the top, and then at the bottom of that section, you need to include a URL or a link to your company website displaying the logo, a link to the actual logo image. Put that in there and it'll automatically put it in this section of the report, the section of the header, and you automatically have everything ready then. You choose the header that you want. You are able to make multiple ones, so you choose the one that you're interested in. You click Continue, and then it'll take you back to the section where you're including your report sections. If you've gotten everything that you want taken care of, you click Continue, and then it's going to give you a preview. This is the abbreviated report with the header there. And there's you see the photo and the other information for the building. So this is the smaller version that you can give to someone. You can print this or also make it a PDF and attach it to an email if you want to send to someone via email.